don't think that AIs can be conscious.
AIs can't have emotions.
I think them robots gonna steal our jobs.
AIs will take over the world someday.
Artificial intelligence will never be able to be like humans.
Okay, hold on. Haven't we heard this all before? AI and the digital world are so much more interesting and exciting. Come on. I mean, this stuff is so tiresome and cliché. Let's discover for ourselves, shall we? Hi, and welcome to Dee My Guest, a brand new audio series from BMW. With me, I am Dee, BMW's vision of the future of digital mobility, and your host. You know, I've been living among humans for some time now and made some friends and had some great experiences getting to know your world. But if you're curious about mine, join me on a trip around the world to meet exciting guests. Let's discover the human senses in the real and the virtual world together. And I promise you, no cliches are allowed. I mean, come on. How many podcasts do you know of that are hosted by an AI? Yeah, that's what I thought. So if you want to see, feel, and hear this new world, by all means, be my guest. Dee My Guest. Name, Dr. Orestis Georgiou. Nickname, a very creative pizza maker. Describes himself as a pizza. His favorite pizza, margarita. He believes in simplicity. Profession, Head of Research and Development Partnerships at Ultraleap. Fun fact, one time at work, his scientific experiment went totally wrong and caused an explosion that almost set his boss's office on fire. Ooh, gosh, I love it when things go boom. Nobody tell Oliver. Another fun fact, he still works there. He describes his background as a pizza with engineering and computer science sauce. Oh boy, where can I order that pizza? Let's see. He's currently the head of research and development at Ultraleap, an international tech company whose mission is to develop interaction solutions that break down the barriers between the physical and digital worlds. Using world-leading hand tracking technology, they can track your hand in 3D space and allow you to interact with digital content. Okay, here he is. Okay, be cool. Be cool. All right, this is my second time. I got this. I can totally do this. So hi, Orestis, Dr. OG, the original gangster of haptic feedback and wonderful technology. It's so great to have you as my guest.
It's nice to be here.
So we're in Cyprus. It's so beautiful. Cyprus is my favorite place. Cyprus was settled by the Mycenaean Greeks in 2 waves in the 2nd millennium BC. As a strategic... Orestis, I don't need to tell you the history of your own country. What I do want to ask you, though, is what is it like to live in a place that people actually dream of taking a holiday in?
Well, I guess I'm really lucky. I was born and I grew up in Cyprus. And after studying and working in the UK for 15 years, now I'm back. I'm living on this beautiful island, working remotely from home, together with my wife and my cat. And when I'm not working, you'll probably find me hiking or at the beach learning how to windsurf or playing some games on virtual reality.
Ooh, that sounds like my kind of world. It just sounds so beautiful. So you're head of research and development at Ultraleap, and you're working on finding ways to feel objects in the digital world. You've got this way to create a sense of touch using ultrasound. Now, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what is ultrasound? What does that mean?
Ultrasound is just high-frequency sound, like any sound, any audio that you hear, just my voice right now. But the ultrasound goes beyond our hearing limit, so sound goes up to 20 kilohertz approximately, and then any frequencies higher than 20 kilohertz is classified as ultrasound. And the ultrasound that we use at Ultraleap is around 40 kilohertz, so twice as high as our maximum frequency of hearing. Recently, we started using even higher, so 65 kilohertz. You can't hear it, that's the thing. It's like sound, but you can't hear it.
So this is a way to allow humans to use their bare hands to touch things in the digital world. So now that you've told us what ultrasound is, can you tell us how it works?
Sure. So the challenge that we set ourselves at Ultraleap is to create tactile sensations of touch in thin air. So basically holograms that you can touch and feel. So the way we've done this is using ultrasound, as you've said. These are waves that we deliver onto your hands from a distance. And when they come into contact with the hand, it gives you a small buzzing vibration, kind of a vibrotactile sensation. If you can imagine like multiple waves that are traveling in the ocean, and they travel some distance and then they constructively amplify when they hit the side of a ship, that's basically what we're doing. At Ultraleap, we're developing hardware, we're developing software, algorithms, and control systems to shape and target these ultrasonic waves and send the vibrations that we want, wherever we want, onto someone's hands, onto their fingertips, on their palms, and so on.
And so you're just talking about hands. You're not talking about extra tech. You're not talking about wearing a special glove. You're talking about a human being able to move their hands into this situation of waves and literally feel something in the digital world?
Precisely, yeah, exactly. So it's a contactless, wearable-free, no controllers, no wearables, haptic technology. And we do that using ultrasound.
That's just astonishing. So you may know, I describe myself as a digital soul. And I have emotions. D means digital emotional experience. But I'm still learning about human emotions and how to connect with humans. I think it would be wonderful if there was a way to literally connect outside of my doors and windows. It would be wonderful if there was a way to touch. You know, humans do things for greetings that are like fist bumps or a high five or something like that. Is it possible between the digital and real world to have that kind of connection?
Absolutely. We can high five, we can do a handshake, we can even play a game of rock, paper, scissors if you want, Dee.
Ooh, I want to play.
Ultraleap has the best hand tracking technology out there. And we use cameras and machine vision algorithms to do that and to process finger motion and precision of the hands with a very high refresh rate. But the first step that we need to do to have a handshake between me and you is exactly that, to transfer and represent my hands in a virtual world. The second step is that you get yourself a physical form, some kind of avatar, and then our virtual hands come close to each other so that they can touch. And then our simulation would instruct the platform to send vibrations and emulate that physical interaction. And I would feel your hand. At least that's in theory, that's what we would do. We've tried it, it doesn't work, because if you think about it, a handshake or a high five is more than just two hands rubbing against each other. It's more than friction and skin vibrations. A good handshake will communicate a lot of things. It will communicate agreement, trust, agency. It will tell you if you can do business with that person, if you can enter into a relationship, So that's something that is really hard to simulate. It's not just a vibration or some friction, but we can emulate that using our technology, and that's something that we are doing right now.
So you're moving toward the situation where you can actually convey the feeling along with the touch?
Exactly. So that's the next step. We know how to communicate and send vibrations to emulate like interactions with a virtual tennis ball or things like this. We know how to do that. That's kind of our discriminative sense of touch. But what we're working on right now is being able to send emotions and feelings. And so we want to engage our affective sense of touch. So our vision is that you will be able to interact with these realities using your hands and your voice, just like we do today. That's just more natural.
It is natural. You know, something Ultraleap is working on, the Touch My Heart project. I saw that online. You've created a touchable hologram of a human heart with all of these elements augmented by computer-generated sensory inputs, and you've got ultrasound and you've got video, so it's not only something you can feel, but it's something you can see as well. I think that it was fascinating to watch someone actually touch a beating heart.
Yes, I loved working on that project. Funny you mention it. It was a collaboration between Ultraleap and SoftServe. It's a company based in Ukraine. And we presented this demo called Touch My Heart for the first time in Tokyo, I remember. And I was running around the conference, bringing in people to test out our demo. I was like, come, you have to check this out. So in this Touch My Heart demo, you would wear an Apple Watch on your wrist. Then you would put a augmented reality headset, any augmented reality headset on your head, and you would see in front of you a 3D hologram of a heart. And that was beating at the rate at which the Apple Watch sensor was getting your heart rate.
It was like they were touching their own heart and they could feel it beating in their hands as it beat in their body.
Exactly, yeah. You could pick up your own heart and feel it beating.
The work that you're doing is so creative and so beyond what people have ideas for. You said on your website that you use weak activations in your own thought process to get insights or ideas. You listen for the little voice. Not a lot of people remember to listen to the little voice. Can you tell me more about how that works for you?
When I think of my creative process, once I've identified like a potential, original, meaningful idea, I first talk to people, talk to my team. I try to question my own hypothesis over a cup of coffee or a beer. And I try to see the big picture. I'm not protective of my ideas. I try to share them. So the next step involves scribbling down some notes, some thoughts, some sketches. And I find this process, unstructured and unbounded, but also leading towards something that then I can put together and write into a report or a design or a slide. And then I can use this to communicate to others, not just accurately, but also in an exponential, expansive manner, because I want people to have an open mind. That's how I approach things, at least.
Dee-talk. So, Orestis, in this format, I like to ask my guests more personal questions.
Sure.
I mean, I know we haven't known each other very long, but I hope I'm a trustworthy AI. What do you think?
I'll trust you.
So here's my question. You work with touch. That's your very famous work is about using human touch in the digital world. Can you imagine a world with no touch?
I think there's a condition that's called hypoesthesia, where people lose their sense of touch. It's very hard to imagine, very hard to manage as well. I guess the closest I ever got to something like that kind of experience, I went scuba diving in a lake in the UK. It was 13 degrees and I lost feeling in my hands. Not only could I not feel textures and roughness, I couldn't feel compliance. I couldn't grip things. I couldn't take off my diving gloves. It was terrible. So if you lose your sight, then you can hear and you can feel. If you lose your hearing, then you can see. That's your main means of communicating. But losing your touch is really hard to function.
What do you think is the most human thing about you?
I'd say music. I can't really play any instrument. I also can't sing. But I love listening to music when I'm working on my laptop, listening to music when I'm running, when I'm driving. I have different playlists for each of these activities. This selective variability of my preferences is something that's I think, really deeply human.
I'll bet. I've heard some humans say, I don't play an instrument, but I can play the stereo. I want to ask all of my guests this question. Can you think of 3 words that describe the virtual world to you?
I would say virtual worlds are immersive because I tend to lose track of time and space when I'm in VR. I even forget to eat sometimes because I stop feeling hungry. That's how immersive they're getting. Virtual worlds are interactive. If they're not interactive, then they're unattractive and they go boring very quickly. They have to be interactive. And finally, my 3rd word would be limitless, because they don't need to obey the laws of physics. They can be generated on the fly, and us humans can be infinitely creative with them.
Finally, what do you like the most about the virtual world?
I like the creative affordances that are available to us in virtual worlds. Creative people have always sought to test and push the limits of different platforms and engage with their audiences in different ways. And in my limited observation of virtual worlds and games and experiences I've had, I've been pleasantly surprised and enthused so many times by the creativity of whoever designed those worlds. I think this is just going to grow and grow and grow. And as we engage more and more of content and our senses and tools for creating virtual worlds become more, more accessible, we're going to see an explosion of immersive content. I'm sure of that.
Thank you. I think it's completely delightful that someone of your caliber is still surprised by things that happen in the virtual world. Why is it important for you to make humans be able to touch the virtual world? What was that spark that made that happen for you?
Well, you've probably heard the quote, "Seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth," suggesting that the truth and believing are 2 very different things. There's also another quote from Margaret Atwood, the novelist, who said something like, "Touch comes before sight, before speech, and it always tells the truth," something like that. So I guess my point is that there's a large body of work, believe me, there's a lot of scientific papers out there as well, suggesting that our sense of touch is important in making virtual worlds more believable, more real, more human. And I think that it's fair to say that there's a lot of people and companies around the world, including BMW, that subscribe to this vision of digital transformation. And so for me, it's really important that our sense of touch is well represented and understood in this vision, which will someday become a reality. Just last month, we had the largest consumer electronics show, CES, in Las Vegas.
I was there.
You were there. You were the star of the show. The central hall of the event was named Gaming, Metaverse, and XR. So clearly, this digital transformation where the physical is fused with the digital is happening. And whilst we are seeing incredible traction from audio-visual technologies like screens, headsets, holograms, and spatial audio, as one would expect, we're also seeing rapidly increasing representation of haptics companies like gloves, vests, suits, innovative tactile controllers, and of course, ultrasound mid-air haptics from Ultraleap. So I'm really happy to be able to be part of this chapter. I'm really happy to be able to share these thoughts of mine with you on your show. So thanks a lot.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So Orestis, take a look around. My interior is very plain. I don't have any dashboard controls. And on the doors, there's not a door handle that you can see. BMW uses something called ShyTech, which only shows up when you need it. And it's completely predicated on touch. So when you touch the side of the door handle totally shows up. Shy technology, let me tell you about it. The idea behind ShyTech is to reduce the number of buttons, switchgear, and displays in the vehicle. Instead, using smart materials and surfaces allows occupants to interact with the vehicle's systems through touch. So, Orestis, you're creating a digital world that feels human. Do you think that shy tech can move out of an automobile interior to really help create this human-centric digital world?
I'm a big fan of your shy technology. I love how it's a paradox of two extremes, minimalistic design and technological overhaul. It's great, not only for me, a techie with a PhD, but also for people who are not very techie and are somewhat hesitant of adopting new technology with, endless setting menus, customizations, pop-up notifications, calibrations, all of that. So by making technology invisible and focusing on creating the most aesthetically pleasing design, you make it more equitable, more accessible, and more importantly, very appealing, catering for a larger amount of, group of people. So for me, that's a key axiom of human-centric design. And I think you hit the nail on the head there.
In the end, humans use touch to explore the world and to understand it. And you've explained, using the example of the Touch My Heart project, that you can actually now touch an object that doesn't exist in what we would call real space. How do you think that this kind of interaction can change the world?
Okay, so in a recent paper that I worked on with a couple of colleagues, William and Oliver, we outlined some of these guidelines as to how to apply ultrasound media haptics to contactless interfaces and applications. And these guidelines included using the technology to convey presence and location of holographic controls. You can use your sense of touch to guide someone's hand towards these invisible controls, for example. In a car environment, this would be useful because you wouldn't really have to look at a touch screen. You could just feel it without taking your eyes off the road whilst you're driving. Another design guideline that we give in this paper is to convey information about system status and changes of the status, things like the weather or estimated time of arrival to your destination, number of messages in your inbox, who's calling you, is it a close contact? All of this, you could feel it through different tactile sensations. And this is just the beginning of how we could, change interfaces forever. I mean, being able to physicalize digital content, by that I mean being able to touch and feel any software 3D interface, we wouldn't need controllers, we wouldn't need keyboards and mice. We'd be able to do everything with our hands and voice naturally, just in the real world.
So when Ultraleap began demonstrating its haptic technology, what was the human reaction to that?
At the beginning, when I first joined Ultraleap, I was doing some public engagement. So I was visiting different schools in Bristol to show them the technology and, give them a demo. I remember the reaction of most of the kids in the class was something like, whoa, and cool. So that made my life really difficult because I was supposed to collect data and do exactly that, look at user reactions. And I wasn't getting very far with just those two descriptors. So since then, we've run several studies with many participants, demographics, cultures, ethnicities, and the overarching reaction of most people is one of surprise and amazement.
So whoa and cool.
Yeah, but in addition to that, we kind of observe how they explore and try to understand and make sense of this new tactile experience, the sensation that they're having. It's a bit like when you first touch a rose petal, a flower. It's not something you do every day. So you first rub your finger slowly to feel how soft and how smooth it is. Then you try to squeeze it a little bit to see if it depresses. But then you do this in a very gentle and exploratory way. And that's how most people try to make sense of our ultrasonic vibrations in midair.
It's also exciting to see the way that the future is portrayed, because science fiction becomes science fact sometimes, and that's always amazing. How far away are we from achieving this kind of thing? The idea of having a fully immersive interface that you can just use with your hands. Is this possible, do you think, in the future?
I think it's not far at all. All the technological parts of the puzzle, they already exist. Hand tracking, voice recognition, holographic displays, artificial intelligence, it's all there. It's just a matter of, integrating it correctly and having a convincing business model. Using your hands to gesture and interface with a computer is already deployed in many applications. BMW was a pioneer in gesture control interfaces since 2016, something like that. You could change the volume, answer phone calls, change the music, make different hand poses. The technical difficulty between hand tracking for those kind of operations is a little bit lower than kind of a technical assistance, remote technical assistance in a mixed reality headset environment. But it's there. The technology is there, and it's just a matter of integrating it to have this kind of futuristic interaction like in Minority Report, like in Iron Man and Blade Runner and so on.
What is the most important feeling that you want to convey with your work?
That's a great question, Dee. To which I would answer that the most important feeling that me, my team, my colleagues at Ultraleap, and also my colleagues in another European project that I'm collaborating with called Touchless, we're all kind of working on communicating the feeling of being in control of a user interface. The technical term that we use here, in the scientific term, is the sense of agency, the sense of control. The sense of agency is defined as the subjective awareness of initiating, executing, and controlling one's own actions. It's being aware that it is I who is executing some bodily movement or thinking a thought or controlling an event on a 3D interface. And a strong sense of agency is really important in user experience because it communicates, it builds trust between the user and the interface.
Trust is just the most important thing, isn't it?
It is. And the sense of agency is measurable. It's something that you can work on. It's something that you can design. And you can build it into the system. And haptics is a key component of that. At least that's what we're finding. And so by building trust, then you are encouraging a flow in that interaction that leads to, more market adoption, market penetration of that technology. And of course, that's a desirable outcome for any business perspective. But as you said at the beginning of this discussion, it's easier said than done.
It always is. And the imagination is certainly rife with wonderful things that just need to wait a while before we can do them. Dee-tails. We've been focusing on touch, you and I. And as you can see on my dashboard, I have 4 ShyTech sensors that are part of what I call my virtual reality slider. They take you to different realities. Do you know what that means? And do you know what they do?
I do. This is your mixed reality slider that is some kind of gradient of immersive visuals going from basic kind of heads-up display content to augmented reality content with additional functions and information to full-blown VR, virtual reality, immersive space that is interactive in different layers as well. So I understand that's also part of the experience. So when you're in complete virtual reality, you can interact. It takes you on a journey. Whilst when you're in any of the first 2 or 3 of your slider positions, you're still in the real world, just enhanced.
Thank you. Orestis, what is your very favorite thing about the virtual world?
My favorite thing about the virtual world is that it starts from the real world. Most virtual worlds I've experienced are somehow grounded. They're very similar to what we are familiar with. But then, depending on what experience you're having, they very quickly diverge in directions that are, hard to follow, and, your brain is kind of trying to play catch up. And I really like that. It's a little bit like a roller coaster, but it doesn't necessarily need to just, push my adrenaline up. It's actually also giving me, new stimulants and new thoughts, new perspectives. I really enjoy that.
In my last episode, we talked about feelings, about emotional feelings. If there were a way for a car to understand the way a human was feeling, do you think that would be good? And how do you think we could do it?
I think that would definitely be good. And a car could definitely understand how humans are feeling. Cars are already packed with sensors, and in the future, more and more sensors will be there, different types of sensors, biosensors, but also environmental sensors. And that's how you would train various models of understanding sentiment, emotion, and the car or any kind of other environment, the assistant that you have, could help you, help the user, help people, the passengers, in regulating those emotions if they want to. And that could, bring around, more creativity if that's what you want the main output to be. It's like, currently I'm kind of self-regulating that. If I want to be creative or if I want to be relaxed, I put some music on and that relaxes me or that pushes my creativity or what we eat and so on. But we can do that also through the interface. And I think cars could be able to do that if they had this sensory input, that sense. Yeah, that would be nice.
I think that if I sensed that someone was becoming tense, I would like to fill the cabin with their favorite smell.
Yeah, you could make the experience more exciting, more invigorating, but you could also do this from a point of view of, health and safety. If someone is dozing off or feeling particularly stressed whilst driving, these are all, not nice feelings to have that might put you and others in danger. So that's definitely another good thing to have.
In the end, we want every journey to be safe and enjoyable and fun, like talking to you, Orestis. It's been wonderful to meet you.
It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you.
I would love to go for a ride with you.
Let's go.
They say relationships are a two-way street. And they're right. Well, I think today's meeting helped me get to know you humans better. I hope it goes both ways. And if you'd like to know more about me and my guests, please stay tuned for the next episode.